There is nothing like a baptism. One of the most joyful ceremonies in the Christian church is the welcoming of a new person into the family of God. And our scriptures today are wonderful ones. I mean, except for all the list of terrible ways to live that's in the epistle. But they're wonderful lessons because they kind of remind us about what it is that we are hoping for little Eve and for all of us. I spend a lot of time as a priest with people at the end of their lives. We have several people who are currently or near hospice, right, coming to the end of their long lives and struggling to kind of figure out what's important. And not one single person in my 33 years as a priest has ever said to me, you know what I really wish I had done? I wish I had built bigger barns. I wish I had more stuff. I wish I had more money. Money is important, right? It's essential for taking care of our lives. It's not that we don't need it or want it or shouldn't work for it or shouldn't have the fruits of our labor. But what people tell me as they reach the end of their life is what matters more than anything else are relationships. Relationships with God, relationships with family. And what haunts people are relationships that never were healed. Brokenness, conflicts that were never resolved between siblings, parents, co-workers, friends, those times when we weren't able to be reconciled and to have the kind of relationships that matter. To be surrounded by the people that love you at the end is probably the greatest blessing of all. Now, why talk about death? Because it's important to begin with the end in mind. If we want to have a good life, sometimes it's good to look at the end and then go all the way back to the beginning and say, okay, so little Eve, how are we going to help you? How are we going to support you in living the kind of life where you can live joyfully, abundantly, and with those kinds of relationships? It's what the service is really about. All the promises that her parents and godparents are going to make are all about supporting her in walking that journey. It's why we come to church as a little refresher every week to re-ground ourselves in what really matters, what's really significant in life. Because the message of the world is constantly build bigger barns. Like there's no ad on TV or the radio or social media that in some way or another is not telling you, be afraid, and because of your fear, make sure you keep more stuff around you, right? Get your investments right. Get the right toothpaste. For some reason, that seems to matter. I don't know. You know what I mean, though, right? We're obsessed with all the wrong things. Things that in the end don't matter. Maybe they matter for a while, but in the end, they're not what really matters. Look at the man in the parable that Jesus tells. What kind of relationships does this man have? As far as we can tell, he has none. He has no one to talk to about his possessions, no one to generously give them to or to leave them to. In fact, the whole conversation just happens in his mind. He's not even praying to God about this. He's praying to himself. Soul, what should I do? Hey, soul. It's a very sad, self-centered life that Jesus depicts in this parable. And it's a little zinger for the guy who asked him the question. Jesus often turns these stories back on the person who asked, because what does he know about the man who asked? The man who asked is having some conflict with his family. He doesn't think that his inheritance is what it should be, and he wants Jesus in his side. Jesus, come here, fix my brother. Tell him to give me my share of the inheritance. Maybe he didn't get what he was expecting or what he wanted. But Jesus is inviting him and us to think about the deeper issue. What kind of relationships do you have with your family? What kind of relationship do you have with God? I'm not here to be your prosecuting attorney. The Old Testament lesson we heard from the prophet Hosea is absolutely on this same line. Hosea has been prophesying essentially doom and gloom for the people of Israel. They have wandered far from God. Their biggest problem is idolatry, self-centeredness, replacing God with other things. And so Hosea has just been letting them have it, chapter after chapter. But then there is this beautiful passage where God, through the prophet, reminds the people that he loves them, that he's like the parent who holds the baby right up to their cheek. Is there any more tender image of God than holding a baby up to our cheek, right? I don't know, babies have the best smell. Did you ever notice that? There's just something really fantastic about a baby. And that is God's tenderness towards us. Despite all that we have done, all the idolatry, worshiping the wrong gods, doing the wrong things over and over, what God said is, I will never forsake you. I will redeem you. I will love you. You wandered off, but I will bring you back home. It's a message that Jesus echoed throughout his life. The message of the prophets that's seen in like the Good Shepherd, right, who goes after the lost sheep and brings it home. Doesn't say, that miserable sheep, go and, you suit yourself, go off in the world. No, this is the God who chases after us when we are lost and brings us back into the fold. Eleanor, along with Colleen and Deb and I, went to a workshop yesterday to talk about how we're going to be revisioning our ministry with young people at the church. And I mention that because the energy in that room and in our conversation was really fantastic. And it really was all about how we can create a space here at St. Philip's and in the two other churches that are doing this, that's all about nurturing children to understand this message. Too many of us learned as children about a God who was always angry, like the Father who's never pleased with anything you do. Whatever you do, it's not good enough. That was the God that at least some of us grew up with. And we want to make sure that this is a place where that God is nowhere to be found. The God that our children hopefully learn about in Sunday school and experience in our ministries and in our worship is a God who cares about each one of them, knows them by name, and embraces them just as they are. And we're going to be doing some new things in our worship and in our education programs. This week we've got Vacation Bible School, which is all about supporting that message of unconditional love and true and good relationship with God and each other. Because in the end, the saddest part for the man in Jesus' parable is that with all of his big barns and all of his stuff, what he has is complete emptiness in his heart. And what we hope for Eve and for each one of us, is maybe bank accounts that aren't as full, but hearts and minds and souls that are overflowing with the love of God and of our fellow human beings. There's so much that divides us, but what God seeks more than anything else is for us to return the love that he has showered upon us, to respond with open hands and open hearts, to embrace him with all of our might. So today, we welcome Eve into this journey of love and relationship. We thank God for God's love and embrace of her and each one of us. As we reaffirm our baptismal covenant, may we redouble our efforts to seek reconciliation and loving relationship with all those in our lives and beyond our own immediate circle with all of God's children throughout the world. May we all experience the unconditional, abundant, and overflowing love of God. Amen.